Welcome to the University of Queensland Anthropology Museum. This exhibition is titled Queensland Aboriginal Creations, Agency and Legacy, and it's about a store that was well loved on George Street in the Brisbane CBD from 1959 up until the mid-2000s. The exhibition has a range of photographs, archival material, artefacts, objects that are from the collection as well as the Queensland Museum collection. And if you like to follow me, I'll show you to the first section of the show. So as you walk into the exhibition, you'll come across these magnificent street signs that were hanging above the Queensland Aboriginal Creations store itself. It was called the Native Creation Store for some time, and then these signs were there from the 1970s onwards. And the director of the Anthropology Museum, Michael Aird, collected these. They were about to be thrown out into the tip once the store closed, and they're like a little time capsule. They captured this history of that time. To the left of me here is a shadow box made by Andy O'Chin, an example, a really beautiful example of the styles of art that were being produced in the 60s and 70s by Aboriginal artists. This one in particular was made up at Cherbourg, and there's a very strong connection in Cherbourg as one of the centres of production for boomerangs and shadow boxes. They even made stuffed koalas at Cherbourg, and this is, I think, a fun work that starts to speak about some of the animals that are up around that area in the Kingaroy, Mergen, Cherbourg area, and some of the scenery and landscapes. When you get a chance to come to the exhibition, you can go up close and have a little bit of a look. And it's a nice way for us to start the exhibition with a bit of a selection of objects that lead you into the show. So this section of the exhibition highlights some of the bark paintings that were created and sold at the Queensland Aboriginal Creations store. This wall behind me is the selection of Vale bark paintings, and these bark paintings are in wonderful condition thanks to the help of the Queensland Museum's conservators. They've been really well looked after, and we were actually really astonished when we started looking into the collection, being able to access them, view them, and then to have them on display and to share them with you has been really wonderful. To continue the bark story, I'd love to show you some more works by artist Rosalyn Saraco if you follow me this way. So this selection of artworks are from the Yarrabah community and the Baramba Pottery Studios. The studios were established with the assistance of the Queensland Aboriginal Creations, the department, and also some prominent figures in the Aboriginal community. So some of these objects would have been sold through the Queensland Aboriginal Creations store, and over here we have some further souvenirs and objects that were sold through the store, including these shell necklaces, some carvings from the Bamaga region, and hand-woven bags and baskets that were utilitarian objects that were sold through the store. We're very proud to have some of the University of Queensland Anthropology Museum collection objects on display as part of this exhibition, and one of the wonderful unexpected outcomes from having this show on is we had visitors from community coming down and speaking to us about the materials that were used in these artefacts, and the technique that these were woven together, and some of the uses for these objects as well, which has been really fantastic. So in this part of the museum, we have a really wonderful selection of boomerangs, painted, decorated boomerangs and some undecorated boomerangs. Some are here from as early, I think, as the 1960s, and we have a range of the more contemporary boomerangs, the ones with the fish and the kangaroo in particular, that were made late last year, it's a really important part of the exhibition, I think, because it leads to speaking about some of the ways artists in the communities were evolving the practice into making other objects. And the shadow box story is really an important one. It speaks to the utilitarian kind of letter holder object that they sort of started and referenced in the beginning. And then they took off and had a life of their own. The decorative motifs, the patterning that was being used, and the location they were referring to. A lot of these shadow boxes were made in Cherbourg, and there's a real community pride and sense of owning that concept of the shadow box and in making it and having one on your mantelpiece or on your home hanging above the living room. And I think some of the artists who have created the shadow boxes are synonymous with the history of boomerang painting, and sometimes you can actually start to think, you can see the resemblance in some of the boomerangs and the shadow boxes, and some of the artist's hand is visible. You can start noticing the similarities. Thank you for joining us on this tour of the exhibition, Queensland Aboriginal Creations, Agency and Legacy. We'd love to have you visit the University of Queensland Anthropology Museum.